All right. What's up, everybody? Rodney Preston here with Horizon and RodneyPrestonMusic.com. Today it's all about vocals. I'm gonna give you 3 tips on how to get your vocals to sit well in a mix. We're gonna talk about EQ, compression, and reverb. And there's a cat on the table. Anyway, let's dive in. Right, we're gonna try this again. One of the most important things you can do with any element of your mix is make sure it's EQ'd properly. So in the first step, we're going to take this vocal that I've got here. I'm going to show you how I approach EQ. Okay, so we're here in Pro Tools. I've got a track pulled up that it's got a lot of production in it, but I stripped it down to just a vocal, a raw vocal and an instrumental. And we're going to do some basic EQ and some basic compression. And I'm going to show you guys how to get started with this thing, okay? So here we go. Here's the track. I'm gonna play it just raw really quick for you. And you can hear that we're probably gonna have some issues that we need to fix.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line, down county line.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few things. It's very separated from the mix. A little boomy in the bottom end, I think. But let's start out with EQ, okay? So I'm just gonna pull up a stock EQ. Everything we're going to do today is going to be super basic, and we can expand on it later. If you want to know, if you want to learn more tips and tricks, like a little bit more in depth, please be sure to leave me a comment below, and I'll make sure that I do some videos for you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to go to a basic EQ. Let's see. Let's just use a 7-band. All right. I know a lot of people say don't mix in solo, and that's very correct. But when you're doing some corrective EQ or some cleaning up EQ, then it's okay to do that. So I'm going to solo the vocal, and I'm going to mess around with this EQ, and we are going to go from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and the first thing I want to do is really, I'm going to solo this. First thing I want to do is listen to this vocal and find out where some problem frequencies are.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot in the low end. I'm hearing a lot in the low end. So one trick you can do is put a high pass filter on. Turn my high pass filter on here. And then I'm going to make it a little, I want it to be pretty sharp. Or that's frequency. I want it to be a pretty steep curve, so I'm gonna turn this up some. About like, let's give it a little bit of a roll off. And I'm gonna move this frequency knob. Here's a little trick. I'm gonna move the frequency knob until the vocal sounds different. Okay, and you'll notice what I'm talking about here in a second. So I'm gonna just let the vocal loop. I'm gonna play that.
I don't drink and drive.
As I'm playing it, I'm going to move this around, and you'll see what I mean.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind.
So it really starts to change around 170 for me, personally. So what I'm going to do is come back just a little bit, probably to like 125, 130, something like that. And what that's going to do, that's going to clean up the mud in the bottom of the track, okay, in the bottom of the vocal. That way you're not competing with your bass guitar or your acoustic guitar or anything of that nature. Super subtle, but it works. So let's see what that does.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind.
You can start to see it takes some of that bottom end out of the vocal, and so you're hearing a little more of the track now. Super subtle, like I said, but it works. So now I'm just gonna kind of set some level on this vocal.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind.
The way I like to set my level on my vocal is I go off my snare. The snare, the kick, and the vocal are the three most important parts in a mix. So it gives you your punch, your snap, and your drive, which is your vocal. So I'm gonna level this up with the snare, then we'll go on to compression.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke.
Okay, so that sounds pretty cool to me. The next thing I want to do is take away some of the mid-range. Not a whole lot, but I want to brighten up the vocals some. And the way I'm going to do that is just with a shelf on the high end. And like I said, all this is corrective. It's not really super finite yet. We'll get to that later. So I'm just going to go to this little blue button here. Let's see. Right here. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. I want to get a little bit of that high end, some S's and T's, just some sharpness on that vocal.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line.
Yeah, so if you bring out just a little bit of that sibilance, we can control it later, but if we bring it out just a little bit, it gives us something to work with. So now I'm going to take some of that mid-range out and I'm going to isolate it and find out what's really giving me that nasally sound.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory. I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink.
I'm going to narrow that Q just a little bit. That's the game. Narrow that Q up just a little bit. And I'm going to pull this down just a tad.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line.
All right, now you can tell that the music is starting to wrap around that vocal a little bit, and that's what we want. So, okay, so I had my microphone muted. Sorry, it's stupid. My bad. All right, now that we've gotten that taken care of, the next step is going to be compression. Sometimes I will compress before an EQ if the vocal sounds good. It doesn't really matter which way you go. Potato. The thing about music is it's subjective, but there are some things you can do objectively to make things a little bit better. So let's dive into compression and I'll show you how I approach this. So we're diving into compression now, and the thing about compression is I'm going to start with a relatively low ratio using a stock compressor, and I'm going to smash that thing so that you can hear what it's doing, and then we'll dial it back, okay? So I like to use a fast attack. Turn my threshold back up here. I'm going to put my threshold at 0 dB. I like to use a fast attack. I'm going to play the track. Start out with a ratio of about 4:1. That's kind of baseline. Set my release about medium. I'm not going to do anything with the makeup gain. So I'm going to play the track and I'm going to smash this vocal, and you will see what it's doing, and then I'll explain.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink.
Okay, so it smashed it. Like, it completely smashed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride that threshold back until I'm getting about 6 dB of gain reduction, okay? So somewhere around there. But if you notice, we're losing volume. Okay, so that's where your makeup gain comes in. If you're doing 3 to 6 decibels of reduction, then just add a little bit of that back, and that's what you get.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line.
Pro tip, you can set your release on your compressor by the tempo of the song. So this song is at 75. So there's an equation. You take 160,000 and you divide that by whatever the BPM of the song is. So I did the math, and this one comes out to about 400 milliseconds. Okay, so I'm going to set my release to 400 milliseconds, and I want to see what that sounds like. This is a really good trick to use on drums too.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the.
Okay, I think that sounds really good. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a little more gain, and I'm gonna pull the fader back some so that I can marry that vocal with that snare again.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county.
Awesome, I like it. It's sitting right there with the snare. Now we're gonna give this vocal a little bit of space. I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, please leave a like, hit the subscribe button so you get notified, and hit your notification bell. So you get notified. Yeah, hit the notification bell, get notified when I put out more videos, because I want to help you make better music. Hey, what you doing? Reverb will give your element a sense of space, a sense of room. It'll give it some warmth and some body. So let's jump into the computer again. I'm going to show you how I approach this as well. Now we're going to give this vocal a little bit of space. And the way we're going to do that is with reverb. But I'm not going to put the reverb on the track. I'm going to send it to a bus. So in Pro Tools, I'm just going to come up here and create me a new track. On stereo, aux input, create. And I'm going to make that input. I'm going to say bus. Let's just go bus 1 and 2, label this verb. This is the time we're going to use a stock plugin here too. Let's just do something simple. Let's do a non-linear reverb, just air reverb. All right, now you can go to this bus and then that to bus 1 and 2. I'm going to turn my send all the way up. You can do that by holding Option and clicking that fader. And let's see what we got. This ought to be interesting. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? That's why we have send. So you can turn this down and you can blend that reverb in how you want.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line.
Okay, so pro tip here. What's cool is you noticed I was messing with the pre-delay. Whenever you did that math with your release time on your compressor, it was like 400 milliseconds. So that is equal to a quarter note, okay? That's a quarter note delay. So I'm gonna set half of that as what, 200 milliseconds? So that would be an eighth note. So I'm going to set my pre-delay on my reverb to an 8th note, and it'll give it a little bit of movement.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line.
Nice. Okay, so pro tip number 3, I think already. What you can do now is a reverb creates a lot of mud in the low end. You notice we cut some of the low end out of our track, but you can now add an EQ to your reverb. It's called Abbey Road technique. You can add an EQ to your reverb, cut out the highs and the lows, and that will make that reverb mesh just a little bit more. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to add a regular EQ. We'll just go back to the 7-band again. I'm going to put my high pass on, turn that on, turn that roll off up just a little bit, bring it down. I like to go from about 2K, 3K, or about, let's say 2K. And then on my low pass, I like to go up to about maybe 226, 225, something like that. Also want to roll that up some. Roll this back. There we go. You want that nice mid scoop. So let's play that back.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind.
And if you notice, by not having all that mud in there, you can actually boost that reverb a little bit more, give it a little more space. So here's what we got so far with the whole chorus.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line. I don't drink.
All right, so that was super subtle, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot more plugins you can use, and there's a lot of other things you can do to a vocal, but this is just a quick and dirty cleanup, okay? If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment down below. And yes, I know, I told you we were going to have a bonus trick, and I'm about to show that to you right now. However, I will not be using stock plugins for this, but I am going to use some really cool plugins. We all love algorithms. Algorithms run the world nowadays. But there's nothing better than putting ears on your mix. If you need help with your track, if you need help with your broadcast mix, if you need help with your live stream, please go to rodneyprestonmusic.com and there'll be a big button that says Mix My Track. Click on that button, enter your email, and I will be more than happy to connect with you within 24 hours to help you make your music better. So I told you about layering reverb. So I'm going to create another auxiliary. Let's see. And I'm going to call this one wide verb. And it's just going to be a wash, okay? So let's go ahead, make that input bus 3 and 4. Go ahead and send our vocal to it. Send it to 3 and 4. Go ahead and, okay, it's already turned up. All right, now let's go. I'm going to layer 2 reverbs actually. There's 2 I like. I love the Abbey Road Chambers. And I also love the H reverb long, which is really, really good. Okay, so now what you can do is I'm gonna set this. I'm not gonna have any pre-delay. Well, let's set this pre-delay to 400 milliseconds. It's that magic number again. This is on the H reverb. Let's go to 400 milliseconds. And on the chamber, I'm not going to have a pre-delay. Okay, now these are super, super, super wet. We can play with the mixes a little bit and go from there. We'll pull both of these up here side by side, and we're going to tweak them a little bit. So I'm going to mess around with these reverbs, and then I'll get right back to you.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out of my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county.
That's a lot, right? That's a whole lot. Okay, so what we can do is we can come in and we can turn this dry wet knob down to about 50%. Turn the reverb down to about 50% on, this is on the Abbey Road chambers. And look, it already has a bass cut here, so we can pull that up to about 250. Keep the mid, we can boost the mids just a little bit, and we can cut the top down to about 5. Let's go 5K on this one. This will be brighter. And over here, I'm not really going to mess with the H reverb. I kind of like it the way it is because we're using it so subtle. So now I'm going to play this back, and we're just going to mix this in.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out of my mind. And I don't smoke, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line. I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out of my mind.
There is still some mud, so I'm going to go over here to my EQ and add another EQ to it. And this time, I'm just going to put a low cut on it like that, and I'm going to boost the high end just a little bit. See what we got.
I don't drink and drive, but I sure could use a drink to drive your memory out of my mind. Oh, but I sure do like the smell of these tires burning down county line. Down county line.
All right, so yeah, guys, those are some quick and dirty tips and tricks you can use. Obviously, you can go really, really far with this stuff. I'll make some more advanced videos later about sidechaining your reverb, sidechain compression on your reverb, things of that nature. And all of that is just really, really subtle, okay? So you got to train your ear, and you got to listen to a lot of music so that you know what you're doing and how it's affecting whatever it is you're mixing against. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, man. Please don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, subscribe to the videos, hit your notification bell, and I will see you guys next time. Enjoy making better music. Oh yeah, no, let's not stop.